You carve your name into a tree because some part of you already knows the world is a machine that forgets. Not slowly, fast. A scratched heart on bark, initials on a school desk, a name buried in wet cement behind a building. It looks childish from the outside, but it is not childish at all. It is one of the oldest panic responses in the human body, the urge to leave evidence. You were here, you existed. You touched this place before the lights went out. That impulse is not a flaw. It is not vanity in the cheap social media sense. It is the nervous system hitting the wall of mortality and trying to push back with whatever it can grab. Some people do it with children, some do it with money, some do it with job titles, photo dumps, personal brands, degrees on a wall, a company bio written like a tiny obituary in advance. Some do it with a pocket knife and a tree trunk. Same hunger, different costume. The modern world made this worse. You already feel yourself dissolving all day. You send emails nobody remembers. You swipe past faces you forget in minutes. You post thoughts into feeds that sink like coins into black water. Even your work lives in cloud folders that will one day be deleted by someone who never knew your voice. Modern life keeps teaching you the same brutal lesson. Most of what you do leaves no fingerprint. So when a person scratches a name into wood or concrete, the body gets a tiny hit of relief. A crude little monument, a splinter-sized rebellion against erasure. This is the inheritance mistake. You assume something of you will naturally survive. Your bloodline, your surname, your stories, your furniture, your habits, your playlists, your way of laughing. But most people are blurred out almost immediately. One generation, maybe two, and the details are gone. The dead do not disappear all at once. They leak away. First the voice, then the expressions, then the private jokes, then the exact shape of their pain. Then all that remains is a name, and then not even that. A human being gets reduced like an old receipt in a wet pocket. That thought is almost too heavy to hold directly, so people perform tiny rituals against it. They sign walls. They keep old text messages. They save voicemails they never replay. They refresh their LinkedIn like it is a pulse check. They obsess over building something meaningful, because meaning has become a counterfeit version of immortality. You are not really chasing success half the time. You are trying to negotiate with disappearance. And the ugliest part is this: you do not even need to die to feel forgotten. It already happens while you are alive. You leave a job and within a month somebody else is using your chair, your login, your little process document. You leave a group chat and the chat keeps breathing without you. You move out of an apartment and your outline vanishes from the room almost overnight. The world has the emotional turnover rate of a cheap hotel. Sheets changed, new body, no ceremony. That is why these marks feel so desperate, because they are not really for the future. They are for the present self that cannot bear how replaceable it feels. A carved name is a wound in the surface saying at minimum I resisted. And still, most people aim at the wrong target. They think the pain comes from being forgotten by history. It usually does not. History forgets almost everyone. That part is normal. The deeper pain is this: you were never properly witnessed while you were here. The mark on the wall is compensation. It is a receipt for an unpaid emotional debt. A person who feels deeply seen does not need to tattoo themselves onto every surface. That is the trapdoor. The carving is not always about death. It is often about starvation, emotional starvation. A life where your real self was too inconvenient, too soft, too strange, too slow, too intense for the system around you. So you leave your name in places because the world never really held it with care. You become your own cheap archivist. That is why the marks look so lonely, not grand, lonely. So what do you do with that? You stop trying to win the wrong war. The first shift is to stop confusing visibility with existence. They are not the same thing. 1,000 views, a polished profile, a calendar full of meetings, a personal brand with your face glued onto it. None of that proves you were real. It only proves you were displayed. A candle in a shop window is still for sale. Real existence is much quieter. A conversation where you did not perform. A friendship where your silence was understood. A day of work that did not betray your nervous system for applause. The second shift is to build memory in living bodies, not dead surfaces. Not your initials on a bathroom stall. Not another polished archive of yourself online. Living bodies. The friend who remembers the sentence you said when their life cracked open. The sibling who copied one honest habit from you. The person who still cooks the meal you taught them when they are hurting. That kind of inheritance does not look dramatic, but it travels farther than ego ever will. The third shift is the hardest. You make peace with being temporary without treating temporary as worthless. A song ends and still matters. A meal disappears and still nourishes. A summer fades and still changes your skin. Your life is not a failed object because it does not last forever. It is a live current, not a statue. Most people do not need a bigger legacy. They need a more honest relationship with vanishing. Because once you accept that the world will not hold you forever, something strange happens. You stop begging surfaces to remember your name. You start asking whether your days felt inhabited while you were inside them. That is a much more brutal question, and much more useful. The tree was never the real audience. The wall was never the real audience. The audience was the frightened part of you that wanted proof your life was not passing through the world, like smoke through a vent. So look at the marks you leave now. Your posts, your saved drafts, your digital trail, your little performances of permanence. Look closely. Which one was the moment you first realized being remembered was not the same thing as being loved?